It's Tuesday, July 26th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple podcast.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
It's great to be back. So good to be back with a true Fade Master here.
Wow.
Hey everyone, how are you doing? This is Chris, and I'm with Mike. We are the co-hosts of the Beer Temple podcast, which is the show you're listening to right now. All right,
Changing it up. Nice.
Yeah, I figured why not.
I like that.
Yeah. How are you, Mike?
I'm good, Chris. I'm anxious. I'm worried.
Oh, okay.
I feel like we are about to enter one of the most annoying and uninspired eras of craft beer social media we may have ever seen since the first person dropped a chocolate-covered strawberry into a pastry stout. I don't know if you saw, but Good Humor is discontinuing the Choco Taco. So hype breweries all over the country are about to be flooding your feed with how inspired they were as children with Choco Taco beers.
Right.
So,
That's, man.
Gonna have to mute a lot of people.
Yep.
It's gonna be like the bomb pop flooding of 2019, but way worse.
Oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about that again.
Yeah.
I heard they're going to do how long till the biopic comes out?
Yeah, the Choco Taco biopic.
Yeah, the inventor of Choco Taco.
There actually is a First We Feast, I think, or maybe it's one of those other online organs that focuses on food. There is a story about the first guy to sell a Choco Taco in Brooklyn on YouTube.
Cool. Can't wait to hear that story.
I watched it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's for you.
It's almost as good as the one about the guy who made millions of dollars selling homies. Do you remember those? Or like little action figures.
Oh my gosh, that were like stereotypes.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Made $1 million selling homies.
I'm sure. Yeah, because they ended up being in like gumball machines and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a bunch of vending machines and the homies just flew.
Right. Well, there you are.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to start the show on a down note. Didn't mean to step on any really hot topics for the rest of the show.
Well, I'm sure all the listeners have now just left to go weep and verify that it's true.
Raid their local Costco's for all the remaining stock of Choco Tacos.
Right. Or not, because I've never even had a Choco Taco in my life. I've obviously heard of it, but I've never had a Choco Taco. But
apparently, similar to a lot of beer styles, we're like, well, it wasn't your favorite beer because you should have bought it more.
Right.
Most
wasn't my favorite.
Must not be eating Choco Tacos anymore.
Yes.
They're fine.
Speaking of
That's my hot take.
favorite beers, so we're trying to move along the opening of the show, which we're failing to do, but that's fine. So instead of going through and asking everyone what they're
put these on the memos
like after the fact and talking about their favorite beers or beers that they've looked forward to or had that they really enjoyed, we're doing it as we introduce people. That's a warning to the guests. Be ready to talk about a beer right when we introduce you. In fact, probably
don't even
talk
say your
about
name. Don't even say
just
hi.
talk about the
Just
beer
go.
first. Yeah,
I took up all of your time.
but I had a beer when I was away this past week when you were doing the show solo with Mr. Doug Valicki, the beer aficionado.
We'll see if that can come out. He said a lot of mean things about a lot of people.
Oh, good.
Like Jerry Nelson style.
Yeah, I'm sure. That just seems like his style. I went to Dogfish Head, went to the Rehoboth Beach Brew Pub. Changed a lot since I was there. Like, I think it was probably 20 years ago that I've been there. And I think they probably tore it down and rebuilt it. I mean, it seemed like that. But
Sure.
Very nice place. Had the classics, had the 60-minute, had the 90-minute, and then went into the store and got a 12-pack of 2-week-old 60-minute. Lo and behold, that beer is incredible when it's fresh. Yes.
I don't think I've had one in 10 years, probably.
So I brought some back because it's still now 3 weeks old at this point. And there's a whole bunch of beers that were brought in for reps today. And I was like, oh, any good beers? And I saw that the 60 Minute that I'd brought in was open. They're like, oh, 60 Minute, like, destroyed everything. Like, it was a totally different beer than what I remember having. So it wasn't just me, but it was fun to have a classic that was probably became a classic for a reason, in really good shape, and probably being brewed, with better technology than it ever has been, and it was really, really good.
Nice.
So that was a beer that I was very pleasantly surprised by. Also, on draft in their current offerings at the brew pub as of a week ago, pumpkin ale.
The beer that changed your life.
Yeah, I didn't get one because it was July and 100 degrees. but so there's some holiday seasonal creep for you.
Oh yeah, they coming.
Yeah,
they're here.
Yeah, I mean it's July and they had pumpkin beer. They were trying to. Yeah,
even at the brew pub.
At the brew pub, can't just hold off on that.
So like the whole storyline of like, no, it's got to like go into distribution and it's got to be the first one out there, or no one's gonna buy it. Doesn't really hold up when it's at your brew pub.
Yes, I agree. It's 100 degrees. They were doing brisk business. There was an hour wait to get in.
Yeah,
and we would have immediately left if we weren't like 30 minutes away.
For pumpkin ale.
Yeah, but we needed that pumpkin ale.
Yeah,
and they're also canning. They're canning shrubs now. There,
I'm making a shrub right now just for my home use, but making 2 shrubs.
There you are.
Also made some malt vinegar out of some kegs I couldn't sell during the
Copy
pandemic.
and Dogfish Head.
Yes.
You making a pumpkin beer too?
No.
Putting it out in July?
We're making it now so it can come out next July.
Exactly. Yeah. How have you been?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, good.
A little worried because of Choco Taco.
Trepidatious because of Choco Tacos. Going to Pittsburgh this week.
When are you going?
On Thursday.
All right. So on my way back,
Yeah.
I couldn't go to Fatheads.
Right.
Because they were closed.
Our Lord and Savior, Mr. Fathead.
Well, I did go to the brew pub, but they didn't sell any beer to go. So all I could get was a tin tacker of that iconic man's head.
So you bought the tin
Which I might be getting a full back piece of, I've decided.
I'll pay for it if you do.
We were also thinking that it might be an Ohio thing, like the great branding, because the true goat, the goat of branding is from Ohio, and we think it might be an Ohio thing.
Are you saying that it's like a mirror?
A mirror.
That person is like, people in Ohio look at it, they're like,
oh,
that's what we look like.
Yeah, I him.
Yeah, he is me, and I am him.
Well, I just think it's just terrible branding that's so amazing. And the names are like, their Hefeweizen is called Gogglefogger, and their sandwiches are called Headwiches.
I did look. Well, not all of their sandwiches are called Headwiches.
Just
I looked at the
certain
menu
ones.
because we're thinking we're going to stop there. And my traveling companion is a vegetarian. There is one option for vegetarians, and it's if you take the chicken off of the salad.
Yeah.
So,
but they're not the worst
but
branded.
they have Headwiches and sandwiches on the menu, which I didn't take the time to discern which is which, why. I can only imagine that the Headwiches are bigger, I'm guessing.
I think probably. And then I saw when I was out there, and I realized I got to go next time I'm going through Ohio. The true goat of branding, Hoppin' Frog. Hoppin' Frog is still alive and well in the supermarkets. 4-pack bottles. So they've finally stepped away from the bombers. Nope, but they're still in all glass, still with the same frog, just with a Microsoft Paint kilt
and like
put
the
over
paper label with the hyper gloss
Yes.
finish.
Yes, yeah, for real.
They're just waiting for it to come back around.
It's come back. I mean,
when is the Zoomer humor going to be like,
see
look at this frog? I guess
5 different fonts
we did that
on the label, and I'm in.
Yeah.
I am all in.
But all of them, the font because you could have selected it in word art.
And then like emboss, bevel, effects.
Yeah, all of the effects.
Yeah. Just basically like read through all the Phase 3 beers and then do that to the text.
Shots fired.
Oh.
Gaussian blur the frog.
Yeah. Okay. we've completely wasted way too much time.
We're really getting right to it.
We have two guests here that I'm very excited to talk to. We're doing a roundtable, but there's nobody actually here to stop us from just blathering.
Right.
So should we introduce the guests now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll introduce them in order of seniority, that being how many times they've been on the show. And we've got a first-time guest coming in, an in-person guest coming in remote for the first time, I think.
That was very confusing.
Yeah, well, it's Mr. Pat. Well, I don't know. What do you call yourself now? You have a new, is it true, Pat? Mr. Pat Fahey?
I can't. I'm not even going to try. I would rather you try.
You have a new nom de beer, I hear. Now that you're down in New Mexico. Pat El Triturador de Santa Fe, which I think it means Pat the Crusher of Santa Fe.
That's some terrifying God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have to imagine you spent a lot of time poking Google Translate to get there. I will do my best to verify that is what you want to use.
No, I didn't use Go. I said, someone asked me who I was having on the show, and I was like, Pat the Crusher on Fahey. He's like, what? Like, no, dude. He's not. He doesn't call himself that anymore. He's now El Tritador de Santa Fe. Mm-hmm. So that's how I heard about it. How are you?
Word is up here.
I'm doing well. This is actually my second phone in, but the other one doesn't really count. That was a living room COVID phone in.
Oh, that's right. That doesn't count.
It really doesn't. Things are good. I'm out here in the desert. It is currently like thunderstorming like crazy. So if there's like ominous thunder in the background, it's probably on my end. But yeah, things are good.
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 New Mexico's good. Avery's doing well.
Avery is doing well. I think she may poke her head in later because she may have to give her expert opinion on some topics. But yeah.
They got broadband down here? You're sounding a little robotic-y. Has broadband come to New Mexico yet?
Jeez. Not yet. We're still
both of our listeners
on dial-up.
Well, thanks for coming on. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you as well. It's weird to be like looking at that room but not be in it. I don't think I've ever
not be packing boxes and cleaning up crap.
I didn't ever have to pack any boxes.
Oh, good for you.
Thank God.
Good for you.
Thank God.
We must have liked you. Well, again, thanks for coming on. And our other guest, also zooming in from far away, is Miss Kate Bernot. How are you?
Hi.
What's up?
I am great. I'm good. Yes, I am here in the wilds of Missoula, Montana, where it is quite unseasonably hot. It's in the 90s, which is wild for us. But yeah, other than being just hot all the time, I'm good. It's just an unusual thing for us. We're usually in flannel all summer.
Oh, the
summer flannel.
Yes, I just
a light flannel.
Every once in a while, you'll pop up on. It must be Instagram. That's really like the only, I think, social media I'm really
what about TikTok?
On. I don't really.
Just to steal videos for certain meme accounts.
Yeah, and it always looks like you're in like the most like bucolic, wonderful places. Is that like? Do you have to travel, or is that like your front yard in those pictures? Do you have like?
Honestly, some of it is quite close to me. I mean, I'm a 3-hour drive from Glacier National Park and about 3 hours from Yellowstone. So
wow.
And there are beautiful mountains half an hour from me. So most of them are in beautiful Western Montana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
it's really good for mental health. You know, when everything is terrible, you just turn your phone off and go into the woods, and maybe you never come back. Who knows?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Bye. Were we supposed to share beers?
Oh yeah, sorry, Pat.
I know. I was like, if you want to know, I'll let you know. You should try getting out of Chicago, Krista. There's like beautiful places when you're not in Chicago. It's great.
Well, you know me. I've I slept outside for the
rugged
first time in my life,
outdoorsman.
I think 18 months ago. So maybe
Sounds
less.
about right.
That's
Yeah.
because you passed out in the bushes.
Basically.
Camping.
Oh,
It's
camping. Right.
City camping is very different.
Urban camping.
Yes. No, it was down in Scratch, and I
That's a rad
would be the
place
only
to
place
camp.
you would camp.
didn't
yeah.
realize that no one told me that there are vents on the on the tents, and I woke up in like a
Oh my God.
steaming plastic bag, and I didn't know that you had to inflate the mattress pad. So I was like had a root in my back. It was wonderful. It was great.
There's a learning curve, but you'll get there. You'll get there.
Yeah.
Survival skills are low, dude.
Yes, very low. So that was my first time ever sleeping outside. So it was wonderful.
It could be better.
Oh
Let me
yeah,
assure you.
it could be worse, but
It could
it
be worse.
wasn't.
It sounds like it could be more comfortable.
Yes, but anyway, your beer. What have you
Yeah.
had a beer lately that you've enjoyed?
I am having a beer now that I enjoy. Let's see. Mixed Culture Fooder Saison from Drownlands in Warwick, New York.
Nice.
It's called Slow River. I was on a river last week, although it was a fast-moving river. But this is lovely, 4.2%, and like extremely zippy and zesty, and I like the bitterness level on this, and it's like really good when it's super hot out. I'm enjoying this.
Very nice. Did you guys know that everything you've ever heard about farmhouse ale is a lie? Because we learned that 2 weeks ago with
exactly
beer
what we learned.
historian Rule Mulder.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if this beer is triggering.
Yeah, it is. It is. There's just so much.
I think that you went
Deception.
from mixed culture fooder beer, none of which said farmhouse ale, to saying
It
that
said
all
saison. She said saison. I
say
thought.
saison. All right. Well,
No, I don't
just
know.
read the can. I read what's on the tin. You know,
did it say saison on there? Or just say mixed culture.
it says Mixed Culture Fooder Saison.
Lie.
Yeah.
Lie beer, in other words.
Yeah, just big old lies.
No.
Doesn't matter if it tastes good.
No, I'm kidding. It's not a lie beer. I'm sure it's very delicious. How about you, Pat?
So I've been down in Santa Fe for like 2 months at this point. So I'm still kind of getting a lay of the land of what the beer scene is like here. But one of the things that's kind of interesting about it, I feel like it's true in both New Mexico and in Arizona, is a lot of the beer scene is sort of, it feels like it's of a past era. Like you go to places and it's like, oh, your flagship is a mild. Like,
What?
I know you could get really excited here.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I really dig on is like we have in town here, Santa Fe Brewing Company. I believe they're the biggest in the state. They're not like huge. I think they're maybe just shy of 40,000 barrels.
That's big.
But I mean, regional.
Yeah.
And like they've got a lot of good beer, but one of their beers that's on all over town is their brown ale, which, as you know, speaks deeply to my heart. So the fact that like I can go to a restaurant that has 3 beers and one of them is a really awesome brown ale is just it's making my life good. And then there's mountains too, and so that's nice too.
That's cool. That's nice. Yeah, I see the mountain bikes behind you.
Those yeah.
Yeah.
This is just kind of like the last room that we haven't quite finished putting in order, so it's just got odds and ends.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you become more Santa phased or whatever you call it when you get more ingrained into it, and little by little just noticing maybe like, oh, there's a little silver ring on his finger. Now like all his hands have silver rings. Now they're doubled up.
He's head
like
to toe.
Johnny Depp level, like
It's just gonna be
accoutrement.
turquoise bolo
Turquoise
ties.
bolo, yeah.
On your
You're
wrist, on your
mind-numbing.
other wrist,
Yeah.
on your neck, on
Links
his
from
head.
the chains that go from the ring to the bracelet, you know, all that, and he's just talking with his hands, just so we all see how native he is now.
He's
Yeah.
riding in George R. R. Martin's Tesla around town.
Exactly.
My intention is just to wear progressively more and more bolo ties. Like just like how many is too many bolo ties
Right.
at once?
Like just like progressively up your neck, like
Yeah.
I haven't decided. I don't own a single one yet. So
Or
once
That's
I-
a good place to
maybe
start.
like the Ultimate Warrior, where he's like getting like roping up with bow ties
Sure.
to get his veins to pop and his arms to really get yoked.
That seems like similar
Pat.
to Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally my vibe.
Yeah.
Once I have a few, I'll let you know.
Are you
Okay.
sitting in a gaming chair right now?
I am sitting in just an office chair. This is the
Sure.
this is the chair that I've used
Mhm.
for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years
To play video games.
Play video games.
to play video games exclusively.
Cool. All right. Well, are we ready to actually talk about beer things? Is it that time?
Have we not been talking about beer things?
I guess we have.
Choco
I mean,
tacos.
Choco Tacos are going to be beer things.
Just
soon,
watch.
so.
All over beer Instagram, there's gonna be Choco Tacos. People talking about how like they loved them as a child. How this
How inspired they are.
within less than a week somehow they made this 10.5% imperial stout that has Choco Tacos in it.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you do?
Just hope it doesn't hit us down here.
Well, wait 10 years. Just wait 10 years. It'll be there.
There's gonna be a craft beer and brewing podcast about like that one time some guy put too many Choco Tacos in his bright tank and they couldn't transfer off the Choco Tacos, but everyone that had it off Zwickel thought it was the best beer.
Beautiful
they ever made.
mistake. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we've seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
Time's a flat circle. Anyway,
The sad thing is, you're exactly right. I'm sure that will happen.
Rust Coal and all of you.
Yeah. So here's, I want to start with something light, but very important at the same time, but very heavy. Okay. So at the, I was looking, I'm just being a total asshole, as usual. So I was looking at, Kate's, wonderful, Sightline page of GBH, and wait, is the Good Humor Man outside? Does anyone else hear that? I think Choco Tacos are outside. Mike really did run outside and is now locked out because the door locks behind him. I think the Good Humor Man is really outside, and if he is, and I'm not kidding. And if he is, I guess let's take a minute break because we have to now let Mike back in. So hold on, he's gone, and I think he's getting Choco Tacos.
Doors.
All
I'm
right.
so jealous that you guys have Politis, though. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So I
Why-
tell the bad news. They had already
No Choco Tacos.
they had already sold out of Choco Tacos. Apparently, there was a rush on them. But
Which is awesome.
why a ice cream man was going down a back alley by a bar, in between a bar and a restaurant, with like
Ringing the bell.
ringing the bell, because he just, it's that intuition people have. So now Mike, Serge, and I are all eating Politas. So anyway,
It shows.
this is such a garbage show.
Were
My
we
favorite show we've ever done so far.
Were we going that whole time?
I don't think so.
No, Serge,
That's
stop
good.
it. Yeah. So anyway, I was on Sightlines, and I remembered something that I had kind of laughed about at the time, which was, and I wanted to, and then that's what reminded me to have you on, Pat, so I could skewer you and your ilk for what happened, which was when at the last World Beer Cup at the Craft Brewers Conference. Sometimes when so what's the deal with, like, if they don't, no gold was awarded, no silver is awarded. What's the deal with that, Pat? Like, because so sometimes they'll say, the bronze medal goes to, was for will be. No,
Bronze?
No silver, or maybe they say silver and then no gold was awarded. Okay. So and then everyone boos, like, inevitably in the crowd. Why is that, Pat, as a
Why does
as a
everyone
judge?
boo, or why does it happen?
But yes to both. Why?
It's pretty, it's reasonably rare, but you'll usually have, and because you asked me about this, and so I went and I looked at kind of some past years. you'll usually have maybe one out of 100 different categories where either one or two medals won't be awarded. It's pretty rare. That's reasonably rare. And the thing is like when you're judging I've never judged World Beer Cup, but I've done GABF a number of times. It's same format as far as I know. And so when you're judging those competitions, like for any category, the beers have to go through usually at least 3 rounds, sometimes for the bigger categories, as many as 5. So it'd be like, have like 10 beers in front of a panel, they send 3 forward, and then those 3 and 3 from another group and 3 from another group, so on and so forth.
You have to like make the cut kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So by the time you get to the medal round where you're going to have like 7 or 8 judges judging this flight of 6 to 12 beers, these beers have made it through several cuts. Usually at the medal round of a table, like everything on the table is
good,
really good.
Yeah.
I've definitely had experiences where that's not the case. I had to flip back, but I was part of a panel, I think I'm not going to say the year, but like 5-ish years ago, where we just awarded a bronze for the category.
Just a hater.
And the thing is, so Chris Swersey, he has moved on from his role as competition director, but he was in charge of the competition for I think like 30 years or something absolutely insane. And I remember when we kind of like got to the point and somebody came to collect the results and we were like, we're just awarding a bronze. And they're like, we're going to go get Chris. And like Chris comes by and like gives you the talk. He's like, I'm going to have to stand up there and everyone is going to boo me.
Yeah.
When I'm like, this is the bronze and no other medals were awarded. And what that basically means is I have up somewhere. They're like, they have like criteria for gold, silver, and bronze. And so gold is like, it's world-class example of the style. Silver is like, it's an excellent beer. It might vary slightly from style parameters. Bronze is, it's a fine example, might have minor defects in taste, aroma, or appearance. When a judge panel says this is the bronze and there are no others, what they're saying is this was the best beer on the table and we don't feel like it's even worthy of a silver or a gold. So it is like a thing that carries a fair amount of gravity to say.
So let's just do a quick slight divergence now. Let's all go around and quickly talk about our favorite beers in the entire world. Pat, why don't you go first? What's your favorite beer of all time?
So, and it's funny that you ask this.
Oh,
one of my favorite beers of all time is Allagash White. Oh. And the first time I ever judged GABF, I got to judge all of the flights of wit beer through to the medal round, and we gave Allagash White a gold. So, and it's a beer that's taken gold numerous years.
Yes, and I was at CB at the World Beer Cup in 2010 when an Allagash won gold that year for wit beer. But the reason it's ironic that you would say that is because in this past World Beer Cup, Allagash won the bronze, and there was no silver or gold awarded. And I remember seeing it was in the evening that they were doing the awards, and I remember watching them on a live stream because I'm cool, and just kind of like chuckling to myself because no one. It's one of those situations where it's obviously I'm not going to laugh out loud, and I can't say anything to anyone because nobody else in the world cares at all that I'm with. Like, no one there that I was with cared at all. So I was like, oh, and then I just kind of forgot about it. But then because of Sightlines, I remembered again. I was like, oh yeah, let's get Pat on and say, so how the hell did that happen, Pat? Come on.
Like I said, I've never judged World Beer Cup, so I don't know what was going on. Honestly, it when I saw that, it did surprise me. In part just because, like I want to say when it happened with us, I think it was like a pumpkin beer category. It wasn't necessarily a category where you would expect beers to be like where there are like tons and tons of people making world-class examples of that style of beer. With a style like wit beer, even honestly, in most cases, when a beer gets a bronze, it's not that it was a fine example of the style and had minor defects. It's just that like it was a absolutely superlative beer, and there were two other beers that the judges happened to like better. So when you get something like that, where judges are saying this beer, which turned out to be Allagash White, is the best on the table and it doesn't even qualify to be a gold, it make like, I don't know if the beer was presenting super weird or like was mishandled in some way, maybe in print, like, things can happen that will make beer not taste good when it shows up at the table. I don't know. I
don't know, man. I mean, you have to think that they
don't make a lot of that,
things.
Though, right?
That's like they get the guy who handles the Stanley Cup to deliver those beers. In my mind, like he's just in a tux and wearing white gloves at all times. It's like, here, hand this beer in to be submitted for.
Probably not.
I think probably.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what did you think of the whole thing, Kate? Or what do you think of it, if anything?
Yeah, so I too remember exactly where I was when I heard the news when the Earth stood still.
This is a beer world's JFK got shot.
But worse.
Yeah, much worse.
And yeah, I mean, I also would struggle to think of many beers that I appreciate much more than Allagash White. I had a friend who showed up at my house like 2 days before my wedding with just a cooler and was like, here's your wedding gift. And I was like, man, I have like 700 coolers. What are you doing? And he's like, open it. And I open it and it's just full of bottles of Allagash White, which you can't find in Montana. So and he's like, that's all you're getting. That's your wedding gift. I was like, this is the best wedding gift of all time. Anyway, so I did not report this story for Good Beer Hunting. My wonderful colleague, Jerry Fagerberg, did. And there were he tried real hard to get to the bottom of it, and he got some nice insights, had some good stats on like how often this happens and blah, blah. And like, ultimately, no, like we'll never know. Right. I mean, it is a great mystery, and you can speculate and you can say, was the beer mishandled? Were judges tired? What? I don't know. But, Jen Blair had a nice quote for Jerry saying like, humans aren't lab instruments, like just wasn't meant to be that day. And I don't know, but, yeah.
It is a little funny because not only is that beer so well respected specifically in the industry, like it's such an industry beer in a way, and obviously outside of that very much too. But it's like, it's definitely on the Mount Rushmore, I would say, or potentially on the Mount Rushmore of like industry insiders' beloved beers,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also so closely associated to the style, like as a wit beer and everything. And it's just funny to me that it still was considered the best, but not world class. And in my mind, they're just thinking like, so what were these people imagining were the better beers? And also, it'd be so great to know, like, when they realized what they had done, just to be like, oh boy.
You can award a gold and no, like, silver and bronze.
Absolutely.
Right? So they're saying there's something about that specific pouring of Allagash White,
beer, I suppose.
and then all of the other whip beers they got that did not achieve a world-class standard.
There are two things about it that are like of note from my perspective. And one of them is the fact that it's like, yes, Allagash White, this beer that a lot of people think is a world-class beer and that like has been judged as a world-class beer a number of times, was considered at that table for whatever reason, whether it was the judges or whether it was the condition of the beer, to be only worthy of a bronze. Honestly, though, that is the less shocking part of it.
It's that there were no other examples.
That there was nothing else at the table, because the thing is I don't know how many, I can't remember how many entries there were. I feel like
102.
Wit beer usually pulls at least 100 entries. So that's 3 rounds for sure of beers. And I would imagine it was probably based on the way that the tables are structured, it's either going to be 6, 9, or 12 beers that hit the table for that. Probably 9 or 12. And so the fact that, wit beer is a style that among breweries in the world is pretty dialed in. Like Allagash White, yes, it is a perfect beer. I'm just going to say it. But
well, I mean, you should have been at that table.
I'm gonna say it. I don't. But there are a lot of other wit beers out there that are also really, really excellent wit beers. Yeah. And the fact that not a single one of that is a style that if you had asked me, you're like, there's going to be a style that gets just a bronze. Name your top 10 that you think it might be.
Field beer.
When
right.
when it happened to us, it was something along those lines. It was like a category where there were probably like 40 to 50 entries. It was a more obscure style. It was one of those styles that it's like, this is certainly not like an established style that breweries have been making for several decades. Shocking to see it with wit beer. JFK level shocking.
Yes.
So you're saying like you're Mark Wahlberg, if you were at that table, it wouldn't have gone down like that?
Yeah. If I was there, it wouldn't have gone down like that. Yeah, exactly.
I am not
speak
saying
of other
that.
national tragedies.
Mm-hmm. Once again, though, it's you can potentially point to the judges, but I don't want to do that, not having sat at the table, because sometimes it's just like how the beer hits the table. And I'm not going to say either that it was like the way the beer was served, though that can have an impact. Like Kate said, it's like, we will never know. Like, were some of the beers mishandled? What happened?
We're all 100 beers. Yeah. All the beers that were good of the 100 mishandled. The other thing that it makes me, Kate, you have to, to me, the thing that I also think of is it works both ways. So, like, how world-class are the ones that are given gold? It's the same thing. If Allagash can only win bronze and nothing is considered world-class, that means they could be wrong in the other way, too. And, that gold medal winning pumpkin beer you had, it's really a bronze. Sorry to say.
Devastate. Local brewery devastated here. Chris Quinn doesn't think their pumpkin beer is really a gold.
It's true.
I will say, having done several medal rounds over the years, that when you sit down for a medal round, almost always the beer is exceptional. And you would expect that. It's a competition that at this point gets over 10,000 entries. Most styles are going to get around 100 entries or more. There are enough people making good beer that when you get to that, these are the top 9, 12 beers that were entered for this style. Usually you might have somewhere you're like, it's not quite right, or this one is easier to drop than others, but usually the beer is really good. So I don't know what happened, but it is a modern day tragedy.
Have you stopped drinking Allagash White because of this?
Totally.
You only drink based off of medals, right? What's got the most hardware?
I got to say, in a similar position to Kate, I drank so much Allagash White in the month of May, in my last month in Chicago. I was like, they don't have Allagash White in New Mexico, and I'm going to drink as much of this beer as I can. And when I come back, I'll just continue. I'll just pick up where I left off. Medal or no.
I'll say one thing: lemon lime paletas, gold medal.
The rice also fantastic.
Really?
A little texture to it. Actual rice in there.
Really?
Yeah, pretty fantastic. Yeah.
Lemon lime was great. I'm just saying, I'm not going to miss the Choco Taco. Give me a lemon lime paletas any day. Is there anything to say about beer judging? Oh, you know what it also reminded me of was when in Fobab. Do you remember in Fobab when there was that whole kerfuffle when
I know what you're going to say.
What brewery was it? The guy is known to be kind of
he entered
Triptych.
No, it wasn't Triptych.
No, it wasn't Triptych.
No, it's something Colorado.
I was like, it's Trillium, but it's not. It's out of Colorado.
Yes, and it's not true. It's somebody else. but they won a wild,
Acidic.
like an acidic beer.
They won a Brett beer, an acidic Brett beer category, and
Yes.
he had submitted it as that. And then after the fact, he was like, "I didn't actually put Brett in this beer, so I'm not going to accept the award. And you judges are like a bunch of idiots."
Yep.
The thing about
it was,
looking at that now,
yeah,
it's
I
like,
remember that.
you might just not be that clean in your process, bud. In your mixed culture brewery, maybe some
Or
Brett
also
did
like
get
a
in
wild
there. But also-
sour ale that doesn't have Brett in it is like such a crock. I mean, come on.
right? And a lot
Honestly,
of
the
the
way-
character people
the-
think is Britannomyces is actually just like oddly expressing.
That's not JFK
Saccharomyces.
level. That's
No.
like
Wait,
yeah.
Trinity Brewing?
It was
That
Trinity.
sounds
Yes.
right. Yeah, nailed it.
I was like, it's Trillium, but it's definitely not Trillium.
let's just drag
I was like,
all
I
these
know
other-
it's not Trillium, but
I'm so sad about all the knowledge that isn't in my brain because that is.
yeah.
yeah.
How can
I-
I get rid of that?
I remember that pretty well. My like takeaway at the time of that was like, whenever you sit down and taste a beer blind, you're going to be impacted by like powers of suggestion to an extent. If somebody's like, "This is a this," and they put it in front of you, you may be inclined to pick up characteristics that would be suggestive of what they told you, even if they aren't there. But that said, like, there's Brett like Orval, and then there are a lot of beers that are made with Brettanomyces that maybe have like soft Brettanomyces character, or have like fruity expressions of Brett that could be contributed by other things. So,
Well, there's even been very famous in brewing circles, like yeasts that were categorized as Bretts by yeast banks until they were genetically sequenced and found out like, oh, this technically isn't a Brettanomyces, it is a Saccharomyces, but it's one of the most iconic flavors associated with Brettanomyces. So the fact that he's like, I didn't put Brett in it is like, it doesn't, it's the letter of the law. It's not the spirit of the law of what those beers are.
Right.
It's a wild beer you put in oak. Like, what is the other category even? Like,
I don't know. It just made me think of it. Like the
Yeah.
other time that judges were kind of put in the hot seat, so to speak. Definitely not to this level. I just think it's funny. I mean, judging is very hard. Blind tasting is very hard. And sometimes stuff like this is bound to happen. And those guys and gals who were tasting those beers, I'm sure, are multiples better at that sort of thing than certainly I am, and pretty much anybody else is.
I think you're the best on Instagram.
It's true. Yeah, I'm
do a
blessed.
great job
for
of that.
sure.
That's true. Okay. Well, I take it back then.
I mean,
should have
obviously,
asked me,
and
I
like,
guess.
in general, they ask that you not really talk about what you
Fight
judged.
Club,
And most people
yeah.
won't talk about what they judged until, like, if they do, like, they won't talk about it until at least after awards are announced. I would imagine, given kind of the uproar around this, that like there aren't a lot of the judges that were at the table that were like, it was me.
Yeah.
I was one of those people. I would be really curious to talk to one of those people to hear, because their perspective could have been like, hey, we tasted all of these beers and like none of them rose to that caliber.
Right, and people that get to judge final tables like that are usually very experienced in judging, let alone or beer in general. And so it's not like they did that and like, oh, we didn't realize what we did. Oh my God, like we didn't know that like Allagash White could have been in there. We would have given it a gold medal. It's like they made the choice they made on purpose. It's not like they should be like, oh no, just need to talk to them. They're like, oh, I'm such an idiot. I didn't give the thing that didn't taste good to me a medal.
And it's going to be, I mean, that's the other thing is when all of the preliminary rounds are going to be 3 or 4 judges. The medal round is usually 7 or 8 judges. So you've got
Wow.
a lot of people tasting those beers and going, nope. So
That's crazy.
I don't know.
I love to imagine one person being like, you guys are crazy. This beer is amazing.
And that
We
could
should give it
happen.
a gold. And I don't care about silver or bronze, but this definitely should get a gold.
I
And
bet
everyone be
it-
like, no,
12
you're
angry
outvoted.
men, there's like one
Right.
holdout that spends days.
Right, but
convincing
doesn't.
the others.
Yeah, but it.
I've been on
but
the other
doesn't
side
win.
of that. I've been on the other side of that argument before, where I was like, "This beer is trash. It should not go on. And then that always ends up winning medals. But more it's because
That was Allagash White.
in that specific instance, I was like, this is just straight up hazelnut extract. And they're like, yeah, but it tastes great. And then it went on won second in Best in Show.
Right.
Still tastes like hazelnut extract, but
Yeah.
whatever. That's just me personally. My personal distaste for that.
Yeah, it's I'm sure somebody. I mean, it's just it is funny to think of these people. Some people kind of ducking under, slinking down in their seat when it's announced, and someone else being like, "You MFers, you MFers." Yeah. Now I
pitchforks,
have to,
fire.
Well, the thing that I like to think about is sometimes amongst and it probably, at least in COVID era judging, they haven't been doing schedules ahead of time, but sometimes at least the judges will talk amongst themselves about what they're judging. Even that is a little bit frowned on, but I imagine these people potentially been like, oh, I love wit beer. I'm so stoked I get to do the medal round for this. And then after the medal round happens, they're like, I hope nobody heard me say that. I hope.
Right. Well, I'm sure people know who did it and stuff like that. But I mean, and in the end of the day, it's completely inconsequential.
And Rob Todd will find them.
Yeah, he'll hunt them down and pour
I'd
Allagash
watch
White down
that
their
movie.
throat. Yeah. I've got a very unique set of skills. It involves making the greatest whip beer, and I will find
And
you,
being
and I will
affable.
make you drink it.
Very specific set of
Taken
skills.
4.
Making the best whip beer and having the least amount of letters possible in my name.
So let's. Are we ready to move on?
I think so.
Okay. What would you like to talk about next? I vote to get a quick beer. Can we do that? I know we had a Choco Taco break, so I feel bad about taking too many breaks, but I'm gonna get another Tipo Pills.
Okay.
It is
Probably a bronze.
it's definitely bronze. It is, how do you say, Pat? Highly let me put my glasses on. It's highly triturador, I would
The
say.
next time we chat,
so
I'll
smooth.
I'll have a proper word for you.
Okay.
But yes, Tipo crushes hard.
Yeah. All right. We'll be right back then.
Welcome back to the Beer Temple Podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike Shalau. I'm here with Chris Quinn, Kate Bernot, and the Crusherone himself, Pat Santa Fahey.
El Tritador de Santa.
Yeah, I didn't want to step on the proper pronunciation.
Triturador. That's what it is.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't make up the name. I'm just trying to pronounce it.
Right, you didn't make that up. Definitely not.
Yeah.
We're doing a classic roundtable, discussing the virtues of Choco Tacos. But we're going to move on to an article that Kate wrote. It's for Sightlines on good beer hunting, about direct-to-consumer shipping and how
Of alcohol.
I guess probably the best way is for Kate. Would you like
Yes.
to tell us anything you want about
Would you like to tell us what the heck is going
What?
on?
Yeah, and then you said you have some new hot
I
goss.
have new DTC news.
Juicy
So,
G.
yeah, you heard it first here on this podcast. No, so I guess I'll start by saying I feel like DTC shipping of alcohol is wonky and it's legal and regulatory, and that makes it unsexy, and people maybe don't want to read about that. I personally find it so interesting because when you strip away all of the regulations and Supreme Court decisions, and it's really just would you like to have breweries shipping beer to your house?
Mm-hmm.
Probably you would. Polling shows that you would.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that, consumers should pay vague attention to. I think it's something the beer industry doesn't get behind as much as wine, and certainly wine, but even spirits do. I just think, I don't know, I think beer misses a little bit of an opportunity here to advocate for itself a little better. So DTC shipping, basically a brewery in your state or another state wants to send you beer to your house, you illegal drinking age consumer. And for for general purposes, we'll say that this is a brewery that is not in the state where you live. So, you live in Chicago and you want beer from a cool brewery in Ohio shipped to your door.
With lots of cool fonts on the
With
label.
lots of cool font. Yeah, maybe you want that new Hop and Frog hot that's delivered to that Boris. Was that?
Yeah. Or there's one where he's dressed like a gangster in a pinstripe
I
suit
want that.
and like a zoot
Oh
suit.
my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I forgot
so
to
you
dress him
want-
up.
The frog dressed as Mr. Peanut.
Mhm.
Dressed to ship
You
to
want
your
a frog
home.
wearing a Choco Taco costume? Ship to your house.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
There was an opportunity at kind of the national level to expand permissions for beer and spirits. Wine you can ship to like 47 states. Wine's got it good. Beer and spirits, not so much. So in 2019, this very obscure group called the Uniform Law Commission, who none of us have heard of, takes up this issue. And what the Uniform Law Commission does is makes recommendations to states about laws that they could enact that are uniform from state to state. So like, yeah, your state can like modify it, but the idea is to like make regulation easier and just not have this crazy patchwork. So they're like, hey, we're going to take on beer and spirit shipping because they seem behind and things are all piecemeal and it's disorganized. So we're going to take this on. Great opportunity for beer to finally make some strides in this area. Extremely quickly, the ULC abandons this goal. Like, whole cloth is just like, never mind. That's controversial and confusing.
Oh,
We'll
I'm sure they were
just-
offered,
What was
backstage
controversial?
passes to like some hot concert or something.
Coachella. They
We
got
won't
to
go into
see
that.
A hologram of Tupac.
Yeah.
Well, from people who spoke to me that were like present for some of these hearings, they were like, oh, turns out these regulators like didn't even know the 3-tier system existed. Like they're starting from square zero on this stuff. Several of them were like, oh, I feel like I've illegally gotten stuff shipped to me. Like I didn't realize that was bad. So that's like the level we're starting at. And yeah, they quickly abandon this whole beer thing and instead just make a bunch of clarifications to wine shipping, but apply them all to alcohol. So whatever. The result of this whole multi-year cluster is that not only does beer not get addressed like directly, they just abandon that whole thing, but the regulations they did suggest that states put in place are probably going to make it harder for any kind of alcohol to ship DTC. So like big opportunity, huge swing and a miss.
Right. Because part of what they instilled is that the state that you are shipping into would then be able to prosecute the like a winery on this point in a different state. So like the example I think they use in the article you wrote is that if you ship, 10 liters a month instead of 9 liters a month to a place in Texas, then Texas can come and take your California producer's license, your wine license. Or that would be their suggestion, because they're not changing these laws. All this body does is suggest that this is how we could uniformly apply laws across states.
Right, and that is their suggestion, and
How could that
regulatory
be taken up? I mean, that seems impossible.
It seems impossible. It seems, frankly,
federalistic,
some of the experts I spoke to were like, "That's unconstitutional."
Right.
And just like what a nightmare. And also what incentive does like a California regulator have to like go after, like, I don't know, just why would anyone want it?
If we're doing like, why would California do it? They never would, right? Because there's so much money to be made by California wineries shipping into these states, where if Texas is like, hey,
California's a bad example. Yeah.
Right. So like, but any other state, like, that's just it. What this thing seemed to have done, if I read the article correctly, is make it, if states were to enact these laws, make it so potentially dangerous to do direct-to-consumer shipping that even wineries that do it currently would pull out of a lot of the direct-to-consumer shipping they were doing, rather than expanding the ability for spirits and beer to move into the space. Is that a good takeaway from that article, Dave?
Yeah, that's a very good summary. It was like, again, high hopes and then like very poor outcomes.
So
if you're
what's up? Oh, were you going to say something, Pat?
I was going to say, well, that's kind of like what I read into it, is like looking at it from the beer perspective. You look at direct to consumer shipping, and right now it's like oh, that looks like a really great opportunity for some breweries, but it's an opportunity not realized currently. And so if this is kind of the finalized suggestion that they give, it's like, it would be kind of like a swing and a miss at a good opportunity. I feel like almost the bigger story there, the bigger issue there is it's like, that's like a huge industry for a lot of wineries and could have like a chilling effect on what they're doing, like real money that's already happening, just like vanishing as a result of this.
Right.
So,
well, and like another thing in that article I took out of it, if I remember these numbers correctly, is there's something like because of the current direct-to-consumer shipping laws, theoretically wineries have access to 97% of the potential people that could buy their product through direct-to-consumer shipping and regular distribution, and that breweries have about, it was like 12 or 14% of potential access.
And then you have to think about even how many breweries, like, would that be feasible for? Like, the kind of beer you make has to, Mike, probably the beer you make, like, this would make sense.
Yeah, it would be huge for us, or for keeping together a brewery like that makes a small amount of very specific things.
Yeah.
But I think also part of the reason that craft beer, there are so many breweries and it has proliferated the way it has, and the kind of the hegemony of style we've seen, is because the shipping wasn't legal. Right?
Yep, I do think that's...
If direct-to-consumer shipping was legal and reasonably priced, do you think we would have seen hazy IPA take over the country the way we had? Probably not. You would probably see like
Trillium
Farmstead, Trillium,
dominating.
and Treehouse just direct shipping to everyone who wanted those. You would see a little bit of it too, because not everyone's going to get shipped beer directly from the brewery. But
would those styles have even blown up? Because they wouldn't have gone mainstream. They would have just been the geeks who would have just traded legally bought online and have them sent out.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it could have.
Imagine how many cool, like, weird niche breweries you could sustain with that model. Like, there's your all Lichtenheiner brewery, whatever you want to do. Like, because if there's 2,000 people in the entire country that want it, like, you could potentially sustain that.
Yeah,
it would be a huge boon to like higher end producers or super niche producers. To your point, Mike and Avery and I talked about this a little bit. Like, it would be awesome for somebody like an Iswas or Keeping Together, but
total game changer. Way more so than with wine, because with wine you have to be. And I apologize to all the winemakers in, states like, Indiana and stuff like that. But you essentially have to be in a very specific few places in the country to be able to make world-class wine, the top tier of world-class wine, I'll call it then. And that's not the case with beer. So that means you could have your niche brewery, if you're setting up for direct-to-consumer, in a very low-cost place, where you don't need to have anybody who's actually, in your immediate area buying the beer, like, I don't know, like a Fantôme kind of does. Maybe we'll bring them up later. But so it would be potentially way bigger for breweries than for wineries, for these small niche types that you guys were talking about.
Depending on where you are, you're starting to see some interesting things happening, like in DC, which has very liberal laws.
None, they don't have any. Yeah,
there's people opening breweries. There's businesses popping up with their model is to be native on a brewery's website. So it feels like you're checking out at that brewery, but be a completely separate entity that then fulfills the shipping to whatever states it's legal for, which are very cool.
I was gonna.
Go ahead.
Go on. I was gonna ask.
Cool
I don't
models,
know if any of you guys, if any of you guys know, like, how does somebody like Tavour fit into that sort of discussion? I feel like
I've talked to a couple legal experts about that, as it would. It's amazing that they are so open and doing ads and all that stuff, because it's just not legal.
It's one of those classic.
It's just not legal.
Classic breweries talk about the gray area they exist in, which is an illegal thing they do, or they just haven't gotten caught yet. That's whenever you hear someone saying, "Oh, it's a gray area," it's like, no. It's
I think Tavour's desperately trying to change how they are doing things, but and I think it's because they've got so much invested now and realize it could just kind of come crumbling down if they don't start changing.
It's the Uber model, right? Do the thing and create the product, and then work on the legal as you go to these places.
Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to do
Alcohol's
somewhat.
different, though. I mean, it's one of those things that Amazon didn't bother taking on.
Well, they're the ones who
when they're
are
the
in a
ones who are
position
like,
to really, really crush that thing because
Right.
they can do it through Whole Foods.
but they just haven't. Like, they've just chosen to kind of not really bother
Yeah,
doing
for
it.
now,
Which
right.
is, when you see that, you're like, this seems like
Yeah.
it might be a little harder than we thought.
Right. No, I mean, we're working on all our compliance. We have like a compliance firm that we've now hired. We are, I think we're probably the most compliant beer retailer in the country. I would bet.
Sick.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, what these places who specialize in compliance are like, I mean, a lot of people are just doing it and not getting caught. So, I mean, we would never tell you to do that, but that is something that a lot of people are doing where you could pay a lot of money and we'll set this stuff up for you. And it's just like, and I'm incredulous. It's like, yeah, but how do you build a business model around this then? Like if it can all just like end, it's bizarro.
High risk tolerance, I suppose.
But the other thing is if states can start going and taking your license away in your state, that just seems like you were saying, Kate, like that seems ludicrous. I'm not saying, ludicrous things happen and have happened recently. But
and again, this is just a body that suggests laws. But if states pass these laws, those would be laws that would have to be fought. Right? They could pass them, and then you could be the brewery or the winery or the liquor store that happened to break the stupid law that's probably unconstitutional, but then you have to defend it.
Yeah, and pay for it to be defended.
It's not like you just get to be like when you see stuff like that, it's not like, oh, it was free because it was just and right that they defended this all the way to the Supreme Court. No, you pay to defend these things to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Certainly sometimes.
And honestly, I don't think the laws going into force would even be what would, if they were to go into force, I don't think that's what would curtail that sort of behavior. As soon as somebody lost their license to produce as a result, like that would be overnight. I think people would just be like, nope, not worth it.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. As soon as somebody, and it's like not worth fighting it, not worth, like, no, we're just not going to do it. So here's the real question, or here's a question I have. I think, Kate, you, by summing it up, saying such a huge swing and a miss, it seems like almost too big of a miss. Why do you think, when given the opportunity to say, hey, we can climb that mountain, ending up like down at the bottom of Death Valley instead? Like, why did they end up so much further away than they said they were trying to bring spirits and beer up to date, and they ended up being like, you know what, I think beer and spirit, I think everything needs to roll back to where they are. I mean, why would that be? And I'm always in a follow the money. Like, why would that just happen all of a sudden?
So this one's a little wacky, because my first instinct was like, well, how hard did the wholesalers campaign against this, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
The answer is they actually, the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers Association, WISWA, came out and opposed this draft as it's written. They're like, we don't like this either, actually. So I can't figure out who likes this beyond the ULC.
Are they just screaming into a void? Is this like a thing that they took on as a project, and someone was like, no, we got to write this thing, no matter what, about alcohol, direct to consumer shipping, and at the end they just came up with this thing where everyone's just like, sorry guys.
I think it's like a bad group project. It was like
the Google
the
Google Doc.
They could do a good job, and then it was like, let's just hand something in. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, that the fact that WISWA is not on board is hopefully a good sign that states won't take this up, because if wholesalers don't like it,
well, the wine wholesalers,
the wine wholesalers, then it's like, all right, well, who's in favor of this? But
do you know how like NBWA weighed in on it, or
not that I've seen? But I think where where this really went awry is just like this board not having a very good understanding of the system that's currently in place, and just kind of like not the way it was described to me by the senior regulatory consultant Alex Coral for Sovos Ship Compliant, my go-to guy on these questions. He was
I
like,
talk to them.
They kind of let perfect be the enemy of good. Like they thought they had to fix every little thing with wine before they could get to beer and spirits.
Yeah.
But instead of fixing it, they just made it worse. I don't know, just like general unfamiliarity and muddling around. I don't have a better explanation for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's too bad because it really could be a great opportunity. There are what, like 9,000 breweries now, and there's like a good chunk of those that make very specific, very interesting, very good beers that could really benefit from this. And like I doubt that the average brewery would take advantage of this, but there are some that could really thrive on it, and it could really be an opportunity for businesses to do well. But it just seems to be a thing that's fumbled, and even if it doesn't seem to be that, like this one, the thing they came up with is obviously opposed, but it seems
this seems to be fumbled in such a bizarre way. It just doesn't seem to pass the sniff test for me. I have absolutely no evidence. I know that the wine wholesalers are not on board with it as it's written, but the wine wholesalers are nothing compared to the beer wholesalers and their lobby, one of the hugest lobbies nationwide, who I would bet would be pretty happy with how this is written. And I mean, you know, my guess would be if they knew about it, this is kind of exactly what they would say should happen. That they should lock in 3-tier for everyone and make it the law of the land. And if anyone breaks 3 tiers, and if anyone's selling into my territory, I can go after them no matter where they are. That sounds like something one of those beer distributor lobbies would love to do, and the type of thing that they have been doing since they gave up being gangsters and went into wholesaling.
This is a pro-distribution podcast.
Hey, I like distribution, but I do think that they have some thuggish tendencies at times.
To your point, Mike, like I feel like the breweries that this would benefit are primarily smaller niche breweries. And so, you know, even
ones whom large distributors don't want to
care
deal with
for
in the first place.
They want to nurture.
They don't want.
But
no, they want to nurture them so that they can help them become just large enough to be distributed someday. I've heard distributors say that. That's what they want to do. They love self-distribution, Mike. Haven't you heard them say that?
I was going to say, I feel like it's a crowd that
them?
doesn't have a powerful lobby behind it.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
You know, even if you look at like the BA as being in support of like small independent breweries, it's not even a majority of their members that necessarily would benefit from this. It is the long tail. It is the very small and the very niche that would stand to gain from this.
The ones who pay the smallest dues as well.
The BA was given observer status for these proceedings, so they were like able to watch what was happening with the ULC. And their general counsel told me, you know, once we saw the direction this was going, we kind of just like sat back and decided not to really engage with it. We saw that wholesalers opposed it. And I feel like the BA would have mentioned to me if NBWA had a lot more hands in this, but they didn't. So I don't know. It doesn't mean they weren't, but it didn't come up in our kind of conversations about it. So I don't know. The BA just kind of like watched it, but sat this one out, assuming that it wouldn't really go anywhere in the States anyway. So that was their take. Yeah.
Yeah. Still the Wild West for a little bit longer, it sounds like.
Sure. Okay, you did say you had some new interesting news about this. Did we already get to that, or is that?
No, we have not gotten to this. So moving away from the ULC, I got an email today letting me know that 3 Washington state breweries are suing the state of Oregon in U.S. District Court in Portland over 2 different regulations related to out-of-state breweries, one of which is DTC, one of which is the fact that they are not out-of-state breweries cannot self-distro in Oregon. They must go through wholesalers, and these 3 Washington state breweries, which include Garden Path Fermentation and a couple other, I'm going to say this wrong, Dwinell Country Ales.
You said that right.
Dwinell, okay. Fortside Brewing and Mirage Brewing.
So these are small. The first 2 are smaller, like farmhouse. If that's not a lie anymore. Sorry, Chris. Style like mixed fermentation breweries.
Yes. So
ones we were talking about would benefit from being able to ship direct to consumer because they make a specific product in small amounts, and finding its audience is very important.
So they are suing the state of Oregon, saying that it is unconstitutional that in-state breweries within Oregon can ship direct to consumer, but out-of-state breweries do not enjoy that same privilege. They're saying this violates the Dormant Commerce Clause. If anyone, I don't know, law school grads out there wants to get into this, but also the fact that they're forced to sell into the 3-tier system is also a violation. That second part of the claim with the self-distro thing, I think isn't going to go anywhere because the 9th District Court, which Oregon is a part of, ruled very recently, like last year, that you can impose that. It was a California case, but that same court ruled, yes, you can force out-of-state breweries to sell into wholesale. So, anyway, but yeah, more DTC news. They're saying it's unconstitutional that out-of-state breweries are not allowed to ship in. So
a lot of states are doing the same thing. So if that was deemed unconstitutional, I mean, that's the same in Illinois, for example.
Out-of-state breweries can't ship in, but in-state. But you can't ship in-state either.
So I take it back. I think that's one of the main reasons Illinois hasn't done it.
Yeah.
Because they want to. There's some breweries that want to be able to do that within the state, and can't. Retailers can though. But yeah, I mean, it would just open up a Pandora's box. Which, hey, I'm open it up. I say, but I mean,
well, I'll be watching this one for sure. I think I'm gonna have a call with some of the folks involved tomorrow. But I'll be watching it because Oregon also has a weird reciprocity clause for its DTC. So out-of-state breweries can ship into Oregon if Oregon breweries can ship into their state.
That's pretty standard, though, right? For a lot of these DTC shipping.
There's a couple. There's like California and New Mexico or reciprocity states.
Like, there's a lot of states.
New
York.
New Mexico. For wine.
They are, and it's for
Really?
it's for wine, I believe. But I do think it
for wine.
Well, I think that's why it was set up. But I do think it applies to beer as well. I could be wrong.
There's New York and Pennsylvania. I think there's states that have this.
Yeah. So it'll be
it's much more common than
just something to watch for sure, because this could have implications elsewhere. So there's just so much of this happening. There's so the Granholm decision that opened up more of the DTC stuff. Like the courts are now trying to figure out all the ways that it applies. So
right. In almost all other consumer goods, it's become the hottest business model for startup companies that sell physical products. Everything is direct to consumer now. Like your underwear, your socks, your
delicious chili crisp.
Delicious chili crisp. Non-alcoholic beer. One of Athletic's big things is they ship direct to consumer if you want it. They also hit distro, and they're bigger than this now. But I have friends who started a non-alcoholic beer company, and a big pillar of that is direct to consumer shipping. So
and this whole thing was about suppliers, so the makers being able to ship to it. I don't think this had anything to do with retailers. This whole thing, I believe, So that's when you get me. That's when you and I would start fighting. Is if you were allowed to ship all over the country, and I was.
So you're saying I should fight you because you are allowed to ship all over the country and I can't?
I'm not allowed to ship all over the country.
You're allowed to ship to many states.
Yeah,
I'm allowed to
more
ship
than
to
you.
0 states.
Yeah, you're allowed to ship.
Unless I drive it to someone's door
that
has a liquor license.
No, it's not.
It's not getting there.
It's not fair. No,
people hit us up all the time too about can you ship this? And it's I can't. But sometimes I'm check the Beer Temple's website, and they're what's a citrus style ale? Why is it a drop down?
Just get it.
Yeah.
Just get it. All right. So, well, I assume when you have more info, you're going to post it to Sightlines, Kate? All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
That's
All
where
right.
you can
Check
read my
it.
weird policy wonk stories that I'm glad to find for people who care about it. Very exciting for me. Thank you.
And
It was actually a great
they
read.
may all be on this.
I did really enjoy reading it.
Yeah, I did too.
And you should read it too.
So here's some comings and goings about brewery sales and closings and stuff like that. Very
All these
happy
breweries
times.
are selling out to the big guys.
They're all selling out.
Who's next, Chris?
Well, Ale Asylum tried to, and apparently it fell through, and now they're closing. Just straight up closing.
Yep.
Not selling out, not going into receivership or anything. They're just, I guess, closing and mothballing or something. I don't know.
Liquidating.
Yeah, liquidating. And they were pretty big. I mean, it says, they, at their height, 22,000 plus barrels, and then they dropped to 13,000, and they were up to 15,000 in 2021, but then, in 2020, I guess, and then, fell to 9,000 in 2021 from 15,000. Yikes, down 40%. That's not good. That sounds like pipe fill to me, but
The real place you can get all this hot goss is that you sign up for equipment auction websites emails list. And then
Yes.
you can find out 3 months ago that this was happening because you can put bids on other stuff.
so you knew that this was all happening?
I did, but I didn't think I should forward you hey, look, this auction is happening as a news story for the show.
Why not?
I don't know. It's not news. It's just a bunch of pictures of stainless bullshit.
Yeah,
Sorry,
but
Serge.
it's still something to talk about. I mean, if you see that happening, I think it'd be interesting. But hey, here's something weird.
Okay, then right now they're selling a bunch of stuff. They're not closing, but they're selling a bunch of stuff from Offshoot, and the brewery is selling a lot of fooders currently, huge fooders.
Yeah.
If you need I don't know who they're gonna sell
Rodenbach.
200-barrel fooders to, but if you need one, if your brewery makes, if you have a lot of fooder beer and you make more than 200 barrels a year and you want to put it all in one tank, go ahead.
Yikes!
Yeah.
Yikes!
That's the last one I saw.
I mean,
It can be a little segment we have. What did Mike see on the auction websites today?
Yeah, that's true. If you see any stuff at retail, let me know. Anything
I
for
don't- I
tap
didn't-
rooms and stuff.
I didn't sign up for those, I don't think, but
Oh, okay.
sometimes
Maybe
when
I
they sell
should.
the tap room, there's a lot of interesting stuff that you can
Yeah.
get. But recently, it used to be a lot of tap room / brewery in this weird area where you're yeah, of course. More often than not, now it's been not a full sell off, but we're selling this 900 barrel bright tank, that type of stuff.
So downsizing, you think?
Yeah.
Or,
And
yeah.
I think another one from Lagunitas of unused equipment, a 250-barrel brew house they've never used, is currently at auction.
250 barrel brew house they've never used.
You can get your brew
Never
house from
used?
never used. You can get from your 250-barrel brew house from Lagunitas, and then you can get your 300-barrel fooder, and then you can just knock right into that one turn, go home for the rest of the year, and come back have some beautiful sour beer. That's how it works,
You
right?
taking notes, Avery? 250. You ready for that? 250. So we've got a new last minute guest addition to the panel.
I'm crashing the party.
Yeah. What's up, Avery? How are you?
I'm okay. How are you guys doing?
Good. Well, you're in another part of the same household, I assume. Can you see each other from where you are?
No. I'm outside.
Oh,
I was
okay.
going to say, are you outside?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound
Yeah.
great.
Sound good.
What do you think about Choco Tacos?
I'm really sad about that,
Mm-hmm.
to be totally honest. It's like my childhood. What little bit of my childhood I do remember is now just being thrown away.
So you'll be making a Choco
Yeah.
Taco
So you'll
beer?
be making one.
Definitely.
Sweet.
100%.
And pink
Taco
Yeah,
peppercorn.
it'll be mixed
mole
culture.
stays on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A rustic style Choco Taco Ale.
We harvested the yeast from Choco Tacos we left out in the sun for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ale
So,
Asylum,
Ale Asylum.
R.I.P.
Bummer. They made some good beer. They
did.
really did.
I didn't
They
hear
also-
about that.
They were the ones that put the hop cone in the bottle for a while, right?
No.
Who was that?
That was Oso Brewing.
Oh yeah.
And it was called like Hoptomator or something like that. They're still around.
Gotta put
So
the
I was
hop
gonna-
cones in
They
there.
don't. I don't think they still do that beer though.
I've got like when we moved, I moved with this stack of like all of these old new brewer magazines that I like slowly over months, like every once in a while I'll be like, I'm just going to leaf through this and like read the articles and then get rid of it. So like, oh, this new brewer from 2018. I was literally, before you even texted me to be on the show, like a couple days ago, leafed through a new
Wait,
brewer.
you brought it with you to New Mexico?
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about how you threw it away before you
I don't-
went.
I
want
eye
to talk
rolls
about
in
it.
one
but
segment
I'm
of the
talking
house.
about it right now.
Jeez.
I'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about it. But
seems
so
healthy.
I was flipping through one from 2018, and I saw an article of Ale Asylum
Better be.
expanding, like getting like new 400 barrel fermenters, and I was like, oh, that's really really timely to see that right now.
Yeah.
It's-
Yikes.
So,
I can send you pictures from their auction of the same ones.
These ones? Yeah. I mean, it's sad. I mean, I know we're chuckling, but it is a bummer to see this time of like people expanding, and they went for it. I remember them really going for it.
And for a show that is so not anti-selling out, but anti-selling out, you got to look at the other end of that spectrum, right? Where we had a conversation about like, did Stone really, like before they sold out, did they really win by not selling out when everyone else was selling out? Probably not. Did Ale Asylum, like, did them going for it really, like, was that like the
What were
move,
they
you
going
know?
for, I guess?
Yeah, like,
were they going for being an independent regional brewery, and that's
maybe
foolish?
Maybe that's just like that's what.
Or were they
died.
going to sell out? Were they trying to sell out?
I don't,
Who knows?
I don't
mean,
know, but
who knows?
looking in the context of like looking at that timing, saying, okay, in 2018, you're kind of putting on the gas. They were trying to expand at a time when
Most
that's
of that
like,
stuff had already happened.
And the thing too is like when you think about what it takes to undergo an expansion like that, it's like you've got to do the planning and line up the financing maybe even a year or two in advance. So you're like, we're projecting that the industry is going to grow in this way, and it didn't. And then COVID happened. So you've got a brewery, and I think that there are a lot of breweries in this position that probably overextended itself at a bad time.
Yeah.
They made the wrong decision at a bad time based on like broader market forces that they didn't
Right.
necessarily see coming. And as a result, like this is where they are. And to your point, it's like, yeah, we can chuckle about it, about parts of it, but like, it is sad to see. I mean, it's a
Totally.
business folding over mistakes that were to some extent outside of their control.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of breweries that exist that are very successful because of when they opened, and now
Yes.
we're starting to see the other side of it of breweries that made choices and didn't hit the timing right. So very unfortunate.
Yeah, and also
Didn't mean
you're
to be
seeing
flippant
a more crowded field where Ale Asylum was in Chicago and was moving in Chicago and had a following at least the Beer Temple. Like we were ordering, I don't know, a case or two every week of Ale Asylum and stuff like that, and they're not in Chicago anymore. That's just one little anecdote, but it's. Yeah, they probably thought, oh, we're in Chicago, we're going to grow that market, we're going to move into another market. And then,
Right.
now Chicago, at that point, Chicago had maybe 30 breweries, and now there's 130 breweries.
Right.
And
They thought it was dust going all up and to the right,
exactly, which it is.
perpetually fluctuating up all the time.
Yeah, it's highly volatile. The good thing is it's only volatile up.
Yeah, how much is it going to go up?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we'll save that for the post show. Talking
That's our-
dust.
We did that once.
Yeah, but this is more of a money show.
Right.
This is
like
about
it's a Mad Money Jim Cramer style.
buy.
Buy. It's only going
dust.
up.
Yeah. No one else. No one even on this show other than us even gets that one. But that's fine.
Nope. I don't even know if Serge knows that one.
It's fine. But here's something else that's interesting. I actually heard about this from Avery. Was that another brewery, because Ale Asylum was trying to sell. Another beloved brewery is trying to sell.
A local brewery.
Another sell, yeah, a local brewery
to Sois, Belgium.
To Sois, Belgium. Fantôme is Danny out there is looking for a successor, and I think the situation a little bit. Certainly better than I do, and you also know, I think, the brewery better than I do. Avery, is there a little bit of like a setup to this story that you could share with us?
Am I really the one that told you about that?
Yeah, because and I mean, I don't know how much you want me to say, but there was some joking about you and another brewer buying them. So I think you were just having fun talking about it. I was like, what? And then it was like, oh yeah, it's for sale. So
You gotta stop talking so much.
why? I mean, it was
all them Allagash whites you be having up here in Chicago.
I mean,
Exactly.
I think Mike found a website of
ounce.
it. Yeah.
So I honestly don't know a ton about all of the background of it. My understanding is that Danny, he started the brewery with his dad in like 1988, I think. And he has kept it super small and manageable. And obviously the brewery has very much a cult following.
But not in Belgium, right?
I had one this weekend.
Yeah, not as much in Belgium. I mean, people in Sois don't, I don't know, it's not huge, and the tap room is pretty small. And, if you've ever been to Sois, there's not really, it's not like a booming metropolis or anything. I'm not sure how many people live there, but it's not a really densely populated place. It's gorgeous. I mean, you drive down this like little road that's just like lined on either side with trees, and it's really like romantic and beautiful. I brewed there when I was still at Jester King. It was actually really early on. I want to say it was like 2014. And we brewed a beer. It was one of Garrett's recipes that he collaborated with Danny on, using truffle honey. It was a fairly expensive ingredient. But the most like salient part of that day that I remember was that we've like finally got the direct fire kettle up to a boil, and Danny was like, all right, let's go to lunch. And there's like an open flame in his brewery. And like all of us, there was like not a soul left in the building to like tend to this open flame. We all went to lunch, and at some point Danny and his partner, his friend, like took off and went and took care of the brew. But I remember just being like, this is about as laissez-faire as it gets, and kind of like a crazy pirate of a brewer. And anyway, my understanding is that, he's in his 60s and is kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen to this thing that I've poured my life into.
He doesn't have like children, obviously, right?
I don't believe so.
Or at least children that want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My understanding is that it's basically just him. So some of the whispers that I heard were that he wanted to find somebody that he could kind of teach what his like philosophy and, just like his approach to brewing and everything, teach them the ropes and have them more or less take over the brewery, buy him out so that he can retire in peace. And, like I said, these are just kind of like whispers that made it on the wind to my ears. I haven't spoken to Danny in a few years, but I think that makes sense. I mean, you get, brewing is not easy. It's a pretty physically demanding job. And, you get old, you don't necessarily want to do that all the time. And I can totally understand building something and wanting to see it exist beyond you. So there were a few folks at a festival not that long ago who were talking about potentially offering to buy it from him, so that the spirit of Fantôme would live on. And honestly, it was kind of an eclectic group of brewers that I was kind of surprised by. I know of a few other brewers that I've worked with in the past and that I care about, who really love Fantôme and consider it to be some of the most like formative, you know, Danny's beers were some of the most formative beers that these people ever consumed. And I don't know, for me personally, I'm conflicted about it because on the one hand, to make sure that this incredibly amazing brewery, this like singular entity carries on into the future, I think is, I like that story, but there's a lot of kind of, you know, a bit of like American savior complex and like colonial feeling vibes about it all, where it's like, oh, okay,
Right.
us American brewers are going to go over here and we're going to save Fantôme. We're going to like, you know, revive it. And that really fucking pisses me off. Oh, sorry, Sergio.
Well, that's what I think when we were talking. That's what I said. I said it, and I said it needs to die. And I don't mean that as
and Chris will kill it.
Yeah, and I will be the one who kills it. No, and I totally want and hope that that Danny can retire in peace and be comfortable. So that's not what I mean, but and if he found someone that could work for him that was a natural to kind of take it on, and maybe over time with some of the proceeds, you know, buy him out and, you know, give him some of the money over the course of years, that would almost be like a pension for him. That sounds ideal. But, you know, that's going to be a long time in the making, and that's almost where you have to bring in a true apprentice who has to move there and just kind of take it over and maybe slowly mold it. But the idea of, you know, American farmhouse brewers going there and taking over Fantôme, and now it's owned by, and I'm just going to pull something out, like, I don't know, Fontaflora or someone like that. You know, like, oh, they bought it and now they own it, and it's no, just let it go, because it won't be Fantôme. It'll be dead either way.
Right.
And just let it go. Let it be this cool ephemeral thing that was around and was sometimes beautiful, sometimes terrible, sometimes a little bit of both. And I think it should just end.
Right. I mean, we're moving ever more into a world where those types of things don't exist. Things that do end. Right. The more and more digital, the more and more metaverse we become. The more and more we live online.
Yeah. Here's 10 Star Wars movies.
Yeah. And so while death is sad and things ending is sad, it also is like there's something beautiful in the finality, or in remembering something as it was, and not forever needing it to exist and evolve.
Like Choco Taco.
Like the Choco Taco. We will always remember the Choco Taco as the mushy thing that it was.
I'm so glad 31 Flavors did not buy it out, personally.
Me too.
I would pose this too, though, you know, and like, you know, throw this to you, Chris, as like a business owner. You know, when you dedicate yourself to like building this thing, part of it is building it because you're proud of it and you're like excited about what you're doing it, but you're also building value into an entity. And I think it's a lot easier for other people to look at something like that and be like, it would be the most majestic and like beautiful and artful thing for Fantôme to just shutter. I don't know what Danny's financial position is, but it's like he's built this thing that has value, and it's, you know, I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is there, but
right.
Depending upon what his perspective is, to just be like, no, I'm just going to walk away.
Oh, passing it on, it would be, I'd be okay with it. I'm not saying I guess I did say it, but I don't want to. I don't mean that I literally like want Fantôme to go away, but I don't want. I think, what do you call it, the American savior complex or whatever, Avery? That just it seems like just the worst, and it won't work. It won't work,
Well,
you know. And
I don't know. There is like one person that I can think of that would honor what Danny has done and what that brand has done for the beer world in my opinion, there is like one person that could pull that off
Who?
and do it beautifully.
Who? You?
I think
So
it's
that guy
Garrett
from the
Crowell.
Boston beer.
Garrett Crowell.
Anyway.
Yeah,
That
I
guy with the
think
big
that
beer from the
Garrett.
Boston beer ads would be good.
I don't know about him.
It's a joke.
But yeah, I really do think that Garrett would be able to. And the beautiful thing about it is that I don't know that he would want to.
Sure.
For as amazing as that thing is, and for how special it has always been to him. But it's for that reason that I think he would be the perfect person to honor the legacy and the memory of that place, and to create. He would be able to create the most seamless entry of that specific geographical location and what that brand represents into the next chapter of whatever it is, in my personal opinion.
Right.
And, you know, I, at the risk of saying a ridiculous pun, the brand should give up the ghost and it should be no more.
Yeah.
And, you know, but that space and that equipment and like, you know, all of the love that has been poured into that place, it can still be transformed into something that will be, you know, that might provide for financial support in Danny's retirement, or, you know, for the community in SWA or whatever. I think that it doesn't have to be, you know, it's that building is where Fantôme lives or nothing lives there at all. I think that there are ways that it can evolve. But, you know, I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, I think all of it. It sounds like, I mean, for someone to move to a sleepy town in Belgium, where, I mean, you need to speak. I mean, what are they speak French there? I would imagine. So, you'd have to, you know, if you're not already a French speaker, you'd have to learn French and live there and move away from everything you know. And it just seems like a huge ask for someone to do it. And more likely it would be, you know, I don't know, it would be a bastardization. Someone who like would want to do that, but really isn't going to commit to doing it. They would just be like, yeah,
well, it's this delicate thing of like, you can't really go there and be like, I've got all these new ideas, right? Like, let's ship direct to consumer. Like that. It's just like all of that stuff, all the stuff you would do to improve a business. Not all of it, but like a lot of like the modern things you would do would almost necessarily kind of destroy the mystique that makes it so vibrant in a lot of American beer consumer and beer drink, or the other people that love that brand.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a brand where people are like, sometimes you get a bad one. A lot of times you get a bad one, but when you get the good one, like that's like not a business. Like that's
I know.
Well, people are even excited when they get the bad one.
Yeah. I mean, I've been excited, but it's like, but it's not like a thing that you can. It doesn't exist in the same way as a normal business exists. It's an art. It's not intentionally an art project. It exists outside the bounds.
Ephemeral. It's something that like existed and can never exist again.
Yeah,
and for it to have value, it has to, right? Because it's not like it's some gleaming German brewery where like we make these beers and we sell X amount of barrels of them and we make them perfectly and the blah blah blah. Here are all the metrics for how you can value this company. Like, how do you value the soul of some sort of artistic expression like that?
Right. It's like an Italian grandma selling her like recipes to a restaurant because she doesn't feel like cooking for the family anymore or something like that. It's like nothing was written down. It was all kind of like just kind of by feel, and even the recipes. I mean, everyone kind of speculated that the recipes, even for beers, kind of changed over the years or batch to batch.
On the bottle and in the label.
Yeah, exactly.
He needs to get into NFTs, I think.
I agree. That's the thing about Fantôme, is it's too fungible.
What if you get a bad Fantôme NFT like 6 out of 9 times, and then you have 3 amazing Fantôme NFTs?
You have to pay.
Yeah.
They're worth negative immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be down. We're actually having a Fantôme event because Kegs actually came in, so we're going to be doing a whole bunch, and we got permission to use to make actual Phantom
NFT.
glassware and NFTs. Now that I think about it.
Can you do that like towards the end of September?
Yeah,
Well, we were
going
going to do it sooner. We were going to do it sooner, and it might have
But you
coincided right with that. But then we got some other big news, which I haven't said in public, but I guess it'll be now. So
We should
you
bury
guys will
at the
hear it
end of
next
a
week.
2-hour podcast.
Yeah, it's true. Well, no one will hear it. It'll come out in 2 weeks anyway. So.
Got it.
Yeah, but then we found out that we're going to be hosting Swansea this year. So now we don't know. Yeah, which is cool.
Very
So now we don't know when we're going to get to this Phantom.
What
Event.
day
Cancel
is,
Swansea Day.
what is the Swansea date this year?
The 24th
24th.
of September.
It always lands on my birthday, but not this year.
Mm.
End of
But
September.
we'll be there.
But we'll be
We will
there.
be in Chicago. For
You'll be
it.
in Chicago?
I'm hyped.
Nice.
Yeah.
I told you that. When
Well,
you texted
So we'll
us
have
about it.
Allagash White and
right,
Swans,
but-
and that's it.
You did say that, but I had forgotten if I had told you the exact day. Maybe I had. I forget. That's right, because
We'll
you're
be
also
there.
doing. That's awesome. All right. Well, maybe we'll have some keeping together.
I will
there.
say, I remember when that Phantom Saison keg came in. I think it came in like March. I remember
Mhm.
seeing it in the cooler and being like, I hope to God this taps before I leave town. And it didn't.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah, Kate,
You
you
should
should
tap it
definitely.
when we're
if
in
you're gonna be
town.
around. Well, you're all invited. So
Nice.
it'll be
Invited to buy a ticket.
no to work the event. You can be the doorman, Mike.
Sick. I'm a very intimidating doorman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you others can be I don't know, custodial staff or something. No, so it should be a lot of fun. Yeah, we're renting out a stadium, so we're going to need a lot of custodians and ticket takers. So
Sick.
that's exciting. But then we are doing a Phantom event too, and we're going to be I got permission,
And if you get the
I got
golden
an
ticket,
actual
you get Phantom.
the Phantom. I got the Phantom IP so that we can put on to glassware, and I've already reached out to.
What was that
the
conversation like? He's
the
like, "What's that?"
well, I went through Lime, and but they actually have like a actual like I thought it was going to be like a bitmap like file or something like,
A Microsoft
like
Paint file.
looks like Mega Man, which would actually work really well on a glass, sell for a lot of money. But yeah, so I reached out to my boy Nate Nelson, the Belgian glassware king of Chicago.
of the world,
Of
possibly.
the world, I think.
Man has lambic glasses they don't have in the Lambic Museum.
That's true. That's true.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, true story. He does. So that should be a lot of fun, and the idea is to celebrate this this amazing brewery where we will say like who knows what this stuff's going to be like when we tap it. I mean,
I was gonna
hopefully
say,
they're all
what
great.
happens if you tap it and it's bad?
I mean, would anyone who really knows that brewery
I
be
think people would be
surprised?
more excited. They'd be like,
That's insane.
We got a bad one.
But here's the
"Let's kill
thing.
this keg."
If there's 5 beers on draft and you have 4 of them and they're bad, do you get the 5th? I do. I mean, you got to try it
Definitely.
because you have to. What if it's
Definitely.
amazing?
Chris,
The odds are then in your favor. I know that's not how
Exactly.
probability works, but in my head, that's how probability works. Like the universe
Definitely.
owes me
I'm due
one.
for a win.
Chris,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
due.
I love you and this business and hope for all the financial success you could ever have. But if one of those kegs doesn't pour ropey, I'm gonna be so upset.
I'm gonna pour shampoo into your glass just so you feel like you got your money's worth. Yeah, exactly.
Jello, let's
Yeah.
go.
Sure, I'll put some gelatin in
You should
there
put some on cask and it's just Jello.
and just have it
Yeah.
like drip out of
Pour it
the.
through a Randall.
I
of
paid twice.
Jell-O.
I paid double for that.
Yeah.
You could just make some Phantom Jello shots. Just
Oh, just by
Go straight
pouring it
on.
by pouring it into a
I
shot
think- I
glass.
think you have to do that.
Oh my
Great
god.
idea.
Extra ropey. We're the worst people, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. What a great way
I'm
to
willing,
honor them.
I'm willing to make those, actually. I make a pretty mean Jello shot.
All right.
Phantom Jello
test.
shot.
Let's do it.
Says the woman who was talking about buying the brewery. I'll do it. I know what we'll do. We'll make Phantom Jello shots. It'll be revolutionary.
God.
The only person who could truly carry on the legacy of Danny is me. Phantom Jello shot. Let's go.
Oh my God.
Go.
Party in the house tonight. So what if we?
Shots,
so
shots,
in
shots.
6 years we go to SWAT and we go to the Phantom and it's just LMFAO pumping out of this tiny little brewery, Jello shots everywhere.
Yep.
Avery just
It is the
crushing
first
it.
all
Nah.
Jello shot brewery in the world.
Yeah.
What's the French phrase for Jello shot? Just so I can
Great
prepare.
question.
Triturador, I think.
Yeah. How do I order a
El
Jello shot?
Triturador, I believe is what it is.
That's Spanish for crushable
No,
Jello
yeah,
shot.
no, it's French for Jello shot. It's Spanish for El Crusherone.
It's crazy how that happens in those Romance languages.
Just happened to
Yeah.
be like that.
So beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
It is. It's really a beautiful language. Anything else that anyone would like to add to this show before we get the heck out of here?
It's a pretty narrow show. I don't think we covered much ground. So
Yeah,
lots
it's
to talk
true.
about.
Choco tacos, and I forget the
I
rest.
would just
Chocolate
like to
tacos to
say,
Jello shots.
So when you guys
I would
come,
like
we
to
owe you
say
all
that I miss
paletas.
you guys terribly.
Aw.
I miss
Aw.
Chicago terribly, and I am ready for y'all to come visit us in Santa Fe.
All right. Well, when you guys are back here, we owe you all
The Jell-O.
paletas. Because we ate paletas in front of you, and it was very rude. I apologize for that.
Yes.
But when you're back, we'll buy you paletas.
We got a Paleta
There
spot
you
down the
go.
street that I'm
That's
thinking about
Jello
going
shot.
to.
Nice. I assumed as much. Coop to Jello.
I don't know. That could be the new Cadillac that's coming out.
The J is more of a zh.
Jello.
Yeah, Jello.
And you don't say the O. It's Coop to Jello.
Coupe de Jello.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's true.
That sounds so sophisticated and lovely.
Phantom Jello
Hello,
shot is
I'm
gonna be
El
450
Triturador.
North
This is
next year.
my lovely bride, Coupe de Jello. The Coupe de Jello.
All right.
I like it.
I think it's time. Anyone got anything else you want to
Yeah.
add?
Yeah, I would like to say, it's been great seeing, all of you, but
Yeah.
especially you two, Pat and Avery. So looking forward to, maybe seeing all of you guys in September.
For our Coop de Jello event.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
We're gonna
Here
call
for
it.
it.
Can you
Le Coupe
put
de
that on,
Jello.
on the board just as an item that people can buy? It's just one Coupe de Jello, and it's a Jello shot with Phantom in it.
It's a Jello shot, or just a Jello shot.
Just tell
Just a Jello
Ryan. Tell Ryan he has to draw a sign for it, and he'll be stoked.
Yeah.
Oh,
my
he'll
God.
be
He'll
very
quit on the
happy.
spot.
He loves drawing up chalkboard signs. He lives for it. Okay. Well, thanks to everyone, Kate, Pat, and Avery. And do we have anything else? We're just getting the hell out of here. What do we got next week? Do we even know? No, we don't know.
I don't even think we know.
We know,
Yeah,
but
we
we're not
know.
going to tell anyone.
Yeah, we know.
Okay. Well, thanks, everyone. We will see you next week. So long.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said.